All right. Good morning, everyone. And yes, welcome once again. We're here. It's another exciting session. Today is our fifth session, by the way, and we really come a long way, if you'd ask me. um, we really started this journey about 5 weeks ago. And then, sorry, that is not what I wanted to upload. Yeah, so we started this journey about 5 weeks ago, and I want to believe that we've all, at one point or the other, learned something from this session. Uh, Last week, we dived into Excel, trying to solve a case study, an HR case study for Covenant. And I can already see your, will I say, beautiful reports and dashboards on social media. If you know you've not done yours or you've not tagged us, you still have an opportunity to do your own report and tag us on social media, and then we'll be happy to engage with you on that. Once again, this is People Analytics Training, organized and facilitated by Reliance Info Systems in partnership with Modiva. All right. We mentioned Reliance Info Systems as the leading IT organization that helps you on your digital transformation and innovation journey in your organization. And this initiative is out of our, will I say, drive to help organizations transform digitally. And we recognize that data and AI is really transforming the workforce and transforming the way we work. Before we used to say the future of work, the future of work. It is now the now of work, because the future, as we see it, is happening now, like in real time. We are in the era of data, we're in the era of AI, we're in the era of co-pilot, and organizations that are the leaders on this front are seeing tremendous growth and benefits. All right. And why should you be left out? And of course, HR being a strategic partner in the organization should be on board or should be leading this drive. All right. On this digital transformation journey, and which is why we have brought in this training, the People Analytics training, to help you use your data, right? You already have the data anyways, you're already collecting it, right? We just need to work together to make sure that you're using that data to drive the important and the strategic decisions in your organization, which is really essential. We've done will I say, we've done extensive, or we've gone extensively in trying to define exactly what people analytics is, how do we leverage it in the organization, what are some of the benefits, what are some of the use cases, what tools do we need, what skills do we need, and if there's anything that we can take away from what we've learned so far, is the fact that it's really not complex, right? It's simple. When people hear analytics, they think of complex mathematics and all of these algorithms and fancy calculations and all that. But we've really, broken it down. And then we see that, of course, there's a lot of actions that we can drive from this. Okay, sorry, I got carried away. Reliance Info Systems, I was talking about us. So if you've not followed Reliance Info Systems on social media, you're not doing well. So please follow Reliance Info Systems on social media, because a lot of all of these other initiatives that we are going to be driving, The people analytics is just one of them. There are so many efforts that we can partner with your organization with, and the first place to learn about all of these opportunities is on our social media platform, right? There are so many benefits that we can drive for your organization. And yeah, please connect with us, contact us if you need to schedule a session with any of our representatives to address a particular pinpoint, right, in your digital transformation drive in your organization. It's not only in data or in IT, even core things around your HIRS, managing issues around maybe security in your organization, or even the office tools you use, the Microsoft Office, the Power Platform, Dataverse, your ERP, your CRM, security, and so on and so forth. Reliance Info Systems help you in all of that. And then, of course, there is Modiva, which is our skilling initiative for IT personnel in organization. I know some of you have registered for the Modiva initiative, but if you have not, or you've not told your IT team about it, it's strictly for IT professionals. It's an initiative where we train or where we help IT professionals upskill in these new technologies that we are faced with. So they get to choose a path, whether it's on cybersecurity, whether it's on modern work, whether it's on data and AI, whether it's on analytics. And then we just help them skill. We also prepare them to take a Microsoft examination. Someone would think, oh, this is where it stops. But no, Reliance Info Systems will actually get exam vouchers and give to them to write these Microsoft certifications for free. Right? I mean, it's really interesting. Who does that? I mean, if you know any other organization that does that, okay, don't drop it in the chat. I wanted to say that, but don't drop it. All right. So, but I mean, Reliance Info Systems really we outdo ourselves in these things, right? So, yeah, so Reliance Info Systems training is sponsored by Reliance Info Systems. We've gone through our business transformation journey. We talked about our 3 pillars: business transformation, operational excellence, and also protection assurance. So I'm going to not spend much time on that. If you are attending this session for the first time, I want to believe that there should not be anybody here that is attending for the first time. If you're attending for the first time, can you let's quickly do a raise of hand. Yeah, I'm attending this session for the first time. Can you please just raise your hand? Okay, I'm seeing somebody, 1 person, 2. Okay. Oh, 5. Wow, 6. That's a lot. Okay, yeah. So then let's talk about it. So let's talk about the expectations for this training. Even though we are in the 5th week, I would still reiterate it. This course is designed for HR professionals or for business executives that are looking to use data to drive a strategic initiative in their organization. It's a beginner-friendly course, so which means that we have not been covering advanced concepts around big data and predictive analytics and so on and so forth. So as a participant, you're going to be expected to work on 2 case studies. We've worked on 1, which is Excel. Today, we're diving into Power BI. People hear Power BI. Some people call it Power BI. Some people call it Power B. Whatever it is you call it. I mean, it's not really, the name is not really important, right? It's what you can do with it, right? The magic you can use Power BI for, all right? And that's what we are going to be talking about today. So participants are expected to complete 2 projects. I think I mentioned that already, 1 in Excel, 1 in Power BI. If you are joining for the first time, you most likely have missed the first case study or the first project we did. So you have to catch up on the recording, which will be released soon. I'll communicate that in just a few slides. Also, at the end of this training, participants are expected to be able to describe core HR concepts, the applications of this HR concept, the tools for analytics, understanding HR metrics, and also to be able to build simple, interactive dashboards. Okay. Now, what are some of the ground rules? For those of us joining us for the first time, we can please bring down our hands, by the way. For those of us just joining for the first time, if you notice, all mics are muted by default, which means that you will not be able to speak. If you have any questions, ideas, thoughts, please use the chat feature and drop them in the chat. Myself or my team are on standby to address any concerns, right, that you may have. By being in this meeting, you consent that you're going to be recorded. Please be respectful to everyone, all right? The recordings of this training, a lot of people have been asking about it. We need the recordings. We need to catch up on the previous session. Just wait. I mean, one more week. Just wait one more week, right? All the sessions are going to be uploaded on across our social media platforms. So it's going to be maybe hosted on YouTube, and then the links is going to be shared, or the links are going to be shared on our social media platform. So that's why I said if you're not following us, that's one more incentive for why you need to, because all of these trainings, the links are going to be shared on our social media platforms, right? This is a certificate course, so which means that you get a certificate for participating in this training. However, you need to meet a minimum attendance requirement, which is 65%, 4 out of 6 classes, right? And then also I mentioned that if you're an organization here, you have specific IT-related problems that you like us to solve together, or you like us to help with, my team is always on standby. You're free to drop a message in the chat when we start dropping our forms to signify interest. So please, you can simply use that as well. We're also scheduling a free 30-minute session for any organization that want to talk to us, just to understand their pain points, to understand how we can come in and help solve issues around data, issues around security, issues around MIME 365, the solutions that you use on your day-to-day job, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to spend more time on prerequisites. Like I said, we have to have basic knowledge of HR concept. We're not going to spend much time on that. Basic Excel knowledge, I think we've pretty much passed this stage at this time. And then your PC should be 4 GB of RAM and 250 GB of hard disk. Today we're going to be working with Power BI. So another thing I need to talk about is if you use a Mac, right, you may not be able to use Power BI unless you have like maybe a Windows partitioning or some sort, because I think Power BI only works on will I say Windows PC, right? But that shouldn't be a problem. So if you have a way to get a Windows system to work with or something, just to download Power BI and use it, I think that would really be fine. However, you're not restricted Power BI. We also have the service, the cloud version of Power BI that you can always use for this training as well. I remain the facilitator, right? My name is Fatai Sani. A data professional, a Microsoft certified trainer, and also a Microsoft certified data analyst. I happen to lead the data strategy and business intelligence team here at Reliance Info Systems. And you've been seeing my face for the last 4 weeks. Today makes it 5. Okay, let's get right into business. Last week, what did we do? Last week, we looked at a case study. So let me just stop sharing here and share my screen again. Last week, we looked at a case study. For those of us that missed last week's session, I'm just going to share that here again. Just a moment, please. Okay. If you can see my new screen, please give a thumbs up. Let me know that my screen is visible. Okay. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. So last week, we walked through this case study where we built a dashboard, an HR talent dashboard for Cognag. We were able to help solve a particular problem that the HR unit of this company had. They were preparing for a board review meeting, and they needed to answer some critical questions about their staff, right? Their workforce, their strength, their salary, and so on and so forth. And together, I mean, you guys, please, can you please give a virtual clap for yourself. Together, we were able to solve this case study. Please, this clap is for yourself. It's not for me. So at least maybe you should put some energy, right? So I mean, you all did wonderful. So we were able to build this dashboard together. And if you know that you've done or you've been able to replicate this dashboard, please feel free to upload this on social media, tag us, or you can even drop it in the chat. I mean, let's like it. I mean, let's see. So if you've done this your dashboard, please do a screenshot, drop it in the chat. Let's see who has, I mean, let's give you a thumbs up for a good job. Well done. Okay. Now let's get right into business. What are we doing today? Okay. Today we want to look into another case study. All right. But today, this case study is not going to be on Excel. It's going to be on Power BI. Okay. Which is one of the tools that a data or an HR analyst will use. Okay. So give me a moment. My screen is coming back up. Okay. Let's see. I'm already seeing people dropping the dashboard in the chat. Wow, this is beautiful. Please, can we give a like to this dashboard in the chat, please? All right. This is really, really beautiful. This is really beautiful. Okay, today we're going to talk about Power BI. All right. What is Power BI? Okay. So Power BI is a business intelligence tool by Microsoft for aggregating, for analyzing, and for visualizing data. Okay. Look at the case study we worked with last week. For that case study to work, we needed that data or that export of that data to be in either CSV file or an Excel file. But in an ideal environment or in an ideal situation, all right, or for companies of different sizes, not all data are in Excel files, right? We have different applications, different softwares that are generating data, all right? Data is being generated everywhere, right, in the organization today, from your finance data to HR data to your systems to even productivity data. All right, you have lots of data, and a lot of applications, software, and systems are generating data today, right? So you're not going to have all your data in Excel, and this is where Power BI comes in. Power BI allows you to connect directly to the data source where your data is resident. You don't need to remove any data. You connect directly to that source, right? Clean that data, transform the data, all right, and build intelligent reports in Power BI, all right? So what this solves is that it allows you to first connect to the data sources that host your data. So whether that data is in Excel, is in PDF, is in a database, whether it's MySQL, is ProgressSQL, is it's in SQL Server, wherever that data is, or it's in a software as a service solution, or it's in an ERP, right? So you have one ERP or the other in your environment is Dynamics 365, or you have a CRM, all right? All of these data, Power BI allow you to connect directly to that data, all right? Now, once you connect to that data, you're also able to bring together data from these different sources and sort of merge them and create a logical model, or will I say relationships on this data. Okay, so you get to connect to the data source, all right? You get to clean and transform the data source. You get to build relationships, all right, with other data, all right, right within Power BI. And finally, you get to build visualizations, all right? Power BI has one of the most, will I say, advanced and interesting visuals, all right, for a reporting tool or for a reporting solution. So you're also able to build Power BI dashboards in real time, all right? Now, let's move on. Power BI has three components, all right? like I said, it's a collection of software, services, apps, and connectors. All right, there are three components to Power BI. The first one is what you call the Power BI desktop, which is the desktop solution that we are going to download today. In the meantime, while I'm doing this, I'm going to drop a link to I'm going to drop a link to download Power BI as well as our case study for today, just so that we are able to complete this before we start. Okay, so I just dropped a link in the chat. It's for you to download Power BI desktop, right? And also to have a preview of the data set that we're going to be using today. Okay, so Power BI has a desktop application, which is a free, let me say a free desktop application that you can download for free on your desktop. This is where I said that it's only for PC, or will I say Windows user. If you already have Power BI, beautiful. Don't do anything. Just wait for the next instruction. So you download Power BI in your desktop. All right. So Power BI desktop is where you get to build all of these things I mentioned, connecting to different data sources, doing ETL. ETL simply means extract, transform, and load. So it allows you to extract the data, transform it, and of course, load it. Okay. It allows you to build these visualizations I spoke about, right? And also to build the different business logic. But now the issue is, unlike other applications, let's say for the way you're familiar with using Excel, like the case study we built for Covenant, when Anne is done or with that project, she's going to have to send the copy of that Excel file to her boss, right? Or to anybody that needs to make use of that. All right, but that is not scalable, because if you need to build repeatable or repetitive reports, you have to be doing all of that. So you are creating more data points, you're creating more data silos, multiple versions of truth, and so on and so forth. So in Power BI, that is not how it works. So that all of that has been re-architected. So when you finish building a report in Power BI desktop, right, you then publish that report to the Power BI service. All right. So that Power BI service is a cloud-based tool that allows you to publish the report that you have built in desktop to that service and give access to anybody that needs to have real-time visibilities, that needs to have real-time visibility into that report. So think of the way you would share your maybe Excel online, or the way you would do your Google spreadsheet and give access so that multiple people can collaborate in real time on that report. All right, you can ask questions and so on and so forth. Okay, so now this is where Power BI service comes in. There's also a third component, which is the Power BI mobile, which is an extension of the Power BI service that allows you to consume reports on the go. All right, so think of this scenario. You build a report in Power BI desktop. So these are your data sources. Okay, you collect data. So this data can be from Excel files, they can be from PowerPoint, they can be from PDFs, they can be from a cloud solution, they can be from a database, they can be from a data warehouse, they can be from your HIRS solution, whatever that data is. All of that data, you're able to connect to it within Power BI desktop. In Power BI desktop, you're able to clean that data, you're able to transform it, you're able to build logical models, and so on and so forth within Power BI desktop. What then happens? You then publish this data or this report to the Power BI service, and of course the Power BI mobile. Now, guess what happens? You are only working with one copy of data from this point to this point, which means that if there is any changes, or if there are any changes on the data source, the end user here does not need to ask for the latest copy. There's nothing like latest copy of data when you use Power BI. All the data you have is the latest copy, because you're able to get updated data once the data source changes. Okay, so which is one of the value propositions of Power BI. So I'm going to take you into the inner workings of Power BI in the next slide. But I see some questions here. What happens to Mac users, so people that don't have Mac. Unfortunately, at this point, right, Power BI is not available for Mac users. Unfortunately, I wish there is any other way that I can say that, but Power BI is not available. The workaround I've seen people use is to work from a VM. So if you have a virtual machine or a Windows virtual machine, you can work with Power BI in that virtual machine. And also know that there are some things that Mac users do where they have maybe a parallel space or something for you to use Windows application on their Mac. That is another way. Now, there's also a way for you to work right from the Power BI service. So like I said, remember I said the Power BI service is a cloud-based tool, right? Which means that you can work from the cloud with Power BI. So we can have a separate conversation for that, but the demo we have today, or the problem or use case we are going to be working with today, we'll start from the Power BI desktop. So if you know your way around, you can also do this or some of it from the Power BI service, which is to just go to Power BI service, app.powerbi.com, register an account, a free account, by the way. And you can start to look around or play around or try to translate what we are going to be doing from the Power BI desktop perspective to the Power BI service. Okay, now let's take you on a journey from, will I say, data to insights. Okay, so this is your HR data here. Like I said, with Power BI, it doesn't matter where the data is coming from. So long as that data is, will I say, structured data or semi-structured data, you get to connect to it. Now, there are three components in Power BI, okay, in Power BI desktop, which is the Power Query, the data model, and of course, the Power BI itself. Let me let you in on a little secret. Do you know that Power BI actually started, from Excel? Okay, before these three components we're looking at used to be in Excel. So we have, okay, yes, this is another way. For people that don't have, for PC users, you can also do some of the things we want to do in Excel, right? So the Power Query, for example, this is the ETL tool within Power BI. It is also available in Excel, interestingly, right? So it is also available in Excel. The Power Query is what allows you to do ETL in Power BI. It allows you to ETL, like I said, simply means extract, transform, and load. It allows you to extract data from different sources or multiple sources. It allows you to fetch that data, to clean that data, to transform it. So transformation is very essential because when data comes in, data is never clean, right? Clean data to a HR analyst or a data analyst is like telling an hospital that there will be no sick patients, all right? It's not possible, right? The data has to be dirty because in the real world, data is not clean, okay? So you have to do transformation or do some cleaning logic on that data itself, which is what Power Query allows you to do. After you're done with this, it then allows you to load that data to the data model, all right? What does the data model do? In the data model, you remember, let's say we want to build one report that allows us to get data or that allows us to work with data from HR as well as data from finance. All right, let's say we want to do a report that tells us which, okay, so we are preparing an exit report, for example, all right? And we need to prepare a report that lets us know an employee, all right, as well as say the loans and the compensation, gratuity, and every other information about that employee from a finance perspective. So we need to make data that is in the HIRS with data from our accounting solution, let's say Sage, for example. These are two different solutions, all right? What would happen is that you go meet the the accountant to maybe export the data for that staff and send to HR, then you export the data from HIRS, and then you start to do manual computation, all right? That is not scalable. In Power BI, what you get to do is, in Power BI, you can connect directly to your Sage, right? You can connect to your HIRS system, all right? Bring those data together, take it through the Power Query stage where you clean and transform the data. Now in the data model, you are now able to build a relationship between the employee data in the HRS system and of course the finance data related to that employee in Sage. All right. And you would likely know that what is going to be the connector that is going to link an employee in HRS to that employee in Sage. Maybe it's the employee ID. All right. So with the employee ID, you are now able to build some sort of relationship or model, right, between the data in the HRS system and the data in Sage or in the finance system. And with this, you get to have a broad cross-functional or cross-departmental understanding of that employee. And you can do this organization-wide, all right? So this is where Power BI comes in. So you got to build a data model, build relationship, build logic and complex calculations in Power BI as well, leveraging on the data model. The direct replica of this in Excel is called the Power Pivot. So remember when we started, I spoke about advanced Excel. So the people that are advanced users in this class will understand some of the things I'm talking about. I just want to say that some of these core fundamentals started from Excel. All right. So you'll find your Power Query in Excel. You'll find a Power Pivot in Excel as well. Right. But Power BI sort of brought those so brought all of these different tools in Excel and brought it into Power BI. All right. So once you're done cleaning your data, you've built your relationship and your models. The next thing is to build your visualization, which is what Power BI is. When you're talking about the king in data visualization, it's Power BI. Power BI is the industry leader when it comes to data visualization. And we're going to talk about this in next few slides. Somebody asked a question inside. It's interesting to know that one can connect Power BI with HRS. Can we use it for any HRS or it can work for only Sage? Any HRS solution, right? And it's not limited to HRS solution, right? It could be any. Just think of what application do you have in your organization today that stores data? And Power BI can connect it. And we are very happy to have an extended conversation with this with you. You don't have to believe me. So let's take a look at the next slide. These are a list, just a few of the data sources that Power BI can connect to currently. There are over 120 of them. Let's start from files. Power BI can connect to, let me just zoom in. Let's start from here. Oops, I'm not sure you can see me zoom. Okay. So Power BI can connect to Excel files, all right, or text CSV file. If you can zoom in from your end, I try to zoom, but it looks like only my. Let me see if there is a way. Okay, yeah. So let's magnify the slide for all. Okay, sorry, one moment. So let's magnify. Yeah, this should work. This should work. Okay. All right, I've tried to do that. I don't know if you can, but if you can, just zoom in. I'm starting from left to right. So from files, you can connect to Excel files. You can connect to text CSV files. You can connect to XML files, JSON files. You can connect to folders. You can even connect to SharePoint folder. That is for files. Okay. Let's look at databases. All right. For database, of course, there's no limit, right? Just think of any database: SQL Server, Oracle, IBM, MySQL, Postgre, Teradata, SAP HANA, Google BigQuery, Snowflake, and there's a high chance that you're using one of this, right, in your company today. So if you're looking to if your data is stored, there are some HRS systems that dump data in a database. So you have the HRS system, but all the data is going to be in your database, and it's going to be in one of these databases. So there's a high chance that you are using one of these databases, and Power BI can connect to it without stress. Okay, let's look at Azure. Some of you have advanced in your DT journey. All right, so you have some workloads in Azure. Power BI can connect to Azure SQL database, to data warehouse, to blob storage, table storage, your data lake, HD Insights, and even HD Insights Spark. Okay, that's for people on Azure. Let's look at online services. This is the one that will interest a lot of the people here. You have data in SharePoint, Power BI can connect to it. You have data in Exchange Online, Power BI can connect to it. Your data is in Dynamics 365. Your data is in Salesforce, all right? You have data in Google Analytics. Maybe you're monitoring, something around metrics on those data. You have data in Facebook. There are some of you, we have marketing department that looks, or you want to track the effectiveness of your campaigns or your social media campaigns from maybe Facebook and other solution. LinkedIn, Power BI can connect to LinkedIn and get data from LinkedIn. You're using LinkedIn primarily to drive your talent sourcing. You want to understand the effectiveness of that channel as a recruitment company. All right, Power BI can connect to LinkedIn. Okay, let's look at other online services. MailChimp, all right, you're sending emails to prospects, to talent. You want to track the effectiveness of that campaign, all right? Power BI can connect data and get data from MailChimp, from Marketo, from QuickBooks, all right? QuickBooks, from Stripe, from Twilio, from WebTrends. Power BI can connect to all of these and get data out of this. Let's look at other ones. Sorry. Oops. What did I do? So let me stop sharing. I don't know what's wrong. So I'm just going to stop sharing and reshare my screen. I think I clicked something. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. Apologies. And I'm going to share my screen again. So I was talking about other online sources. Power BI can connect to websites and get data from a website, all right? And you know the interesting thing, it can sync the data from the web and get you the updated copy of that data on any website, all right? You can get that data in Power BI, which is why we have web here. You can get data from the web into Power BI. SharePoint list, I already mentioned this. You can get data from Python, you can get data from R, and so on and so forth. These are just and even if you have a custom solution in your environment, you can always build a custom connector to get data, all right, from that solution. So you are not, what's it called? You're not limited. So you can build custom connectors to get data from that solution. All right. So if you have an HR solution and you have been looking to get data from it, I see a question in the chat from Jennifer. Right. We can help you on that journey to build a custom connector and get your data out in real time and connect it to Power BI. You don't have to keep downloading Excel file, because downloading Excel files and uploading it to analytics to analyzing that data, that process is boring, is boring, is repeatable. You're not able to channel your energy into productive analytics things when all you're doing is working with the same repeated copy of data every single time. Right? The goal is to work smart, not work hard. All right. And that is what HR analytics help us do. Let me tell you today for free that think of any report that you're currently doing in your role as an HR professional in your organization. And I can tell you with all measures or all degrees of certainty that you can automate that report. All right. You can do it once and not worry about it again. And all you just have to do at the end of the month is to click a refresh button somewhere and all the data gets updated and gets refreshed and you have the latest copy of your data instead of worrying about repeating that process. I used to work in a company where at the end of the month, right, there's a monthly report that needs to be prepared, and it took a 3-man or a 4-man team at the end of every month for like 3 days to prepare that report because of maybe the complexity of that data source and so on. All right. I came in, right, and I was able to help automate that report. All right. And what used to take 3 men or a 3-man team, all right, to do for 3 days, right, now took a maximum of 2 seconds or 3 seconds by just clicking a refresh button, because we've done all the hard work and all the automation, and we just need to click refresh, and Power BI goes into the data source and pulls in the latest copy of that data. Okay, bye to doing repeatable work. Now, that is as far as I'm also going to talk about some of these other sources in as we move on. Let's go to the next slide. We're going to now be looking at another case study. Okay, in this case study, we are going to be playing the role of this guy. All right, who is he? Someone may ask. His name is Steve Anderson. All right, or Anderson, as you would like to call it. And he is the VP and Chief People Officer at Walmart. All right. Of course, he's not a real person. So please, we're in the era of AI right now. So you don't know what is real and what is. So someone should not go and set this man on LinkedIn and say, oh, I caught you. You lied. He's not, right? This is not a real person. Okay. So, but let's pretend that he's a real person. Okay. So we're going to be playing this role as the VP and Chief People Officer for Walmart. Now, he has a pain point, or he has a headache. His problem is that he has concerns, or there are concerns that a lot of roles have become redundant after the COVID-19 pandemic. As a retail company, they had to hire a lot during COVID to cater for all of those exceptional cases that COVID brought on the team. And of course, they did very well. Revenue shot up and so on. But now they're facing economic realities, all right? And finding out that a lot of roles that they hired for at that time have become redundant, all right? Because we've circled out of the COVID-19 pandemic, all right? Hopefully we don't create a new one, all right? But yeah, and there are concerns that profit is dwindling. We're doing very well in terms of revenue. We're doing very well in terms of numbers, but profit is not reflecting because, and one of the key problems that have been identified is our cost, right? When it comes to wage bill and so on, it's pretty very high, all right? And there's a need for workforce optimization, which is now really important. Now, as the Chief People Officer, what is Steve going to do? The first action, remember, we don't take decisions based on gut feeling anymore. I mean, for the last 5 weeks, we've agreed, right? If we've agreed, please, thumbs up in the chat. We've agreed that we're not going to be making decisions based on gut feeling. We have to use data to back any decision that we're going to make. So what is Steve going to do? He has to analyze the revenue performance, right, for Walmart relative to their employees. And we need to get a fair analysis of the revenue per employee for Walmart, all right? We need to now compare. This is not enough data. We need to compare this performance to the industry standard, all right? Are we doing very well relative to other companies in of our size, all right? So we need to do that comparative analysis. And we now need to propose strategies, all right, to optimize the workforce. If we come out, or if we agree, or if data validates that we're not doing very well in terms of profit, and we can identify that roles have really become redundant. So this is the case study that we are going to be working on today. I'm excited. I don't know about you. If you're excited, let me see some reaction about that. Okay, so that is our case study for today. We're going to be playing. Remember, for the rest of this course, you are Steve Anderson. All right, so I'm going to share my screen right now, and I'm going to pull up my Power BI. All right, so let's have that. 1 second. Thank you. I can see the reactions. You can keep them coming. So I'm going to share this slide. All right. So at the end of this exercise, we're going to build a replica of this report or this dashboard. Okay. We're going to look at, first off, what is the revenue performance for Walmart? 611 billion. That's a lot of money. Dollars. All right. Our profits, 11.68 billion, which is roughly around, my math is terrible. Let's say 3% or 4% of the revenue. If you know the, please drop it in the chat. What is the profit margin from 611 billion? What is 11.6 billion of that? What is the profit margin? Now, our revenue per employee is $291,000, which means that for every employee, revenue per employee is $291. We don't know if this is good or bad, all right, yet, okay? Now, we need to now do that comparative analysis with other companies, all right, in our space. We need to look at top 5 companies by revenue, okay? Interestingly, Walmart is number 1 globally, all right? We're doing $611 billion in revenue. This is followed by Saudi Aramco. We're doing better than Amazon. We're doing better than State Grid Corporation, and then also Vito. All right. But when we look at top 5 companies in terms of revenue per employee, we are number 5. All right. Vito, that happened to be the 5th, that are doing only 505 billion. All right. They have a revenue per employee of 323 billion, okay, per employee. Compared to Saudi Aramco, compared to State Grid, Amazon, and you can see that we're number 5 on this list. So this is where industry comparison by country. You see that Switzerland is leading when it comes to revenue per employee and also by industries. And we can see that in the commodities space, all right, this is where the highest revenue per employee is. In our industry, right, which is retail, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, when it comes to average revenue per employee. And we have a table right here that further shows the performance. So when it comes to rank of companies in terms of revenue, you see Walmart here, number 1, 611 billion. But when you look at the profits, 11 billion, not so good. When you compare that to, look at the next company, all right, 159 billion is, sorry, this is profit. This is profit. Apologies. Revenue per employee, 291, all right, compared to our revenue. And we see others, right? We see this company that happened to be the 5th largest company in terms of revenue, which is Vito, all right, at 505 billion. He, of course, is leader when it comes to revenue per employee, all right? And we can then drill down into our industry. We are in the retail business, okay? So we'll drill down into retail to see, let's compare apple to apple, okay? So we see, let's compare other businesses in retail. Walmart, 611, doing very well. If you look at this number alone, we're the best. Amazon, 574. Costco, 226. And this last name that I cannot pronounce, 159. Okay? But let's look at top 5 companies when we look at revenue per employee. All right? The first company here, Costco, is doing 764,000. All right, $764,000 per employee. Amazon is second. Walmart is third after Amazon and Costco. All right, what that tells us is that really we have more staff. And if you look at the numbers here, if you look at our employees, we have 202.1 million, sorry, Okay, someone say, can I increase the text size? Okay, let's look at this here. Okay, I mean, we've not done the analysis yet. We just want to see. All right. If you look at our employees, Amazon has 2.1 million employees that are driving. Walmart has 2.1 million employees that are driving $611 million. Okay, compared to Amazon that has about half, okay, not half, like 60% of the staff strength, about 1.5 million employees driving 574. And Costco has only 304 that are driving $226 million in terms of revenue. But if you look at revenue per employee, you see that Costco is more efficient when it comes to revenue and employee ratio, and they're doing $764,000 per employee, while we are only doing a small sum of $291,000 per employee. This is what some of the analysis we're going to do. Now, let's start from scratch. So I'm going to open a new workbook now, and we get started on this together. What is the first thing we need to do? We need to look at the data. Okay. So I'm going to open Power BI. All right. So we have a new Power BI. All right. We have a new Power BI. Let me just wait for this to finish opening. Okay. So this is what our Power BI interface looks like. All right. In the Power BI interface, we have different tabs. We have the Home tab, we have the Inserts, we have the Modeling, the View, the Optimize, and of course the External Tools slide. Okay. Now, let me close that. I'm just going to expand all of this so that I can see. Okay. So someone says they can't see my screen. So please, if you can see my screen, can you please let me know that my screen is visible? Okay, very good, very good. So please check your network. Yeah, they can see my screen. Interesting. So we have Power BI. This is the Power BI interface. So we have different tabs. We have the Home tab, the Insert tab, the Modeling, the View, and of course the Optimize tab. Okay. Now, the very first point of call, or where you go to, where you get to Power BI, is the Get Data tab. Okay. Someone says I should increase the size of my screen. I don't know, but this is, let me just say, this is how much, okay, yeah, this is how much I can increase this, okay? So when you go to the Get Data tab, this is where you get to connect to any type of data in your organization. I'm going to come here shortly and show you all of the data you can connect to, okay? So this is the first and the most important place to go to when you want to get in data. If you look on the right-hand side here, you can see your visualizations. So this is where you get to bring in different visuals. So you can see you have a number of visuals here, and you can also bring in extra visuals, maybe from the marketplace, if you want to, okay? Now, we have three views in Power BI. If you look at the left-hand side here, sadly, I cannot zoom my screen more than this. So please, you can also try to pinch. If you're on a mobile, you can try to pinch and zoom. If you're on your PC, you can try to zoom in from your end as well. You have three views. So the current view we are right now is what we call the report view. This is where you build, this is like your canvas, and it's where you build your reports, okay? We also have something that called the table view. This is where you get to see the data that you have in your Power BI. But we don't have any data for now, so we'll let it go. Okay. Then you have what you call the model view. Okay. This is where you build relationships between your data model and so on and so forth. All right. Now, let's go back to our report view. Like I said, where we need to go to is get data. So I'm going to click on that. We need to bring in data into Power BI. So where is our data source? Let's assume we don't know for now. So we go to more. Okay. So we go to more for our data. 1 second, please. Okay. So here we see all the different data that we can connect to. All right. Some of them, let's start with file. Remember the other slide, I spoke about Excel, text, XML, JSON, folder, PDF, and so on. I spoke about database. You see, you can get to connect to any database of your choice here. I spoke about Microsoft Fabric. Okay, I didn't speak about Microsoft Fabric. It's also a new SaaS solution for Microsoft that encompasses everything from data ingestion to engineering to data science to also BI in itself. You can get data from Power Platform. So if you have data in Dataverse, data flow, and so on, you can get data. If you have data in Azure, you can get data from Azure. If you have data in online services, all right, you can also get data from all of these. And I mentioned some of them already. SharePoint, Dynamics, Google Analytics. I mentioned Adobe Analytics. I mentioned LinkedIn. I mentioned QuickBooks, Zendesk, if you have data in Zendesk. I mentioned Asana. I mentioned a host of them. So you can get data from a lot of these data sources. Okay. Also, you can get data from the web, which is where we are going to be getting our data today. Okay. You can get data from, let me see, other sources that are here that are familiar. FHIR, you can get data from Google Sheets. You can get data from, a host of them. Let me just show one example before we go to our case study today. Let's say I want to get data from Excel file. I'm going to try to get the Covenant case study we used as well. So I'm going to click on Excel workbook and click on connect. So if you're feeling adventurous, you can also try to recreate that project we did in Excel. You can also recreate it in Power BI. Okay, but yeah, let me just show you. So these are Excel files I have in here. So let's say I want to connect to the HR Covenant case study. Let's say this is an Excel file I want to get data from. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to say open. Okay. So what Power BI is going to do is to scan that data, all right, and pull in all the tables in that data for me. Remember how we got here was to go to get data, and we pointed to the Excel file we wanted to get data from. Now, where is our data? If I click on this, I can explore. So everything we have here are the different sheets we have in our data. Okay, so you can see this is an example. This is the data, the exact data we worked with for our Covenant case study. So we have here the employee name for those of us that were in class at that time. We have the employee ID, we have the salary, the position, the state, the date of birth, the gender, the marital description, and so on and so forth. So if I want to bring in this data into Power BI, all I need to do is to say whether to load the data or to transform the data. Let's just go to load data so that I can show you. I'm just going to load this data. So that is an example, a very simple example of how to connect to an Excel file. Okay, so the data is going to take a couple of minutes and you're going to see it load into Power BI. So you can see the data is loading. All right, and we're going to see it appear in Power BI. Okay, so it's creating a data model, it's loading data to the model, and just a couple more seconds, and then we see our data. So it's currently loading that data into Power BI. So you see it here. So this is done. I'll cancel this. And if you look at the right-hand side of my screen, you're going to see the data for Covenant. You can see it here. The data has already been loaded into Power BI, and I can start doing my what? My visualization. Let's explore the data. I'm going to go to table view. Remember, I told you the different views we have. Report view is where we are right now. If I go to the left-hand side of my screen, which is the table view, I can see the data here. This is a data that was just in Excel. All right. And you can see that we've imported this data into Power BI. Employee ID, the salary, position, date of birth, marital status, and so on and so forth. And if I want, I can go back into my canvas and start to create reports. All right. Let's say I want to understand employee by position, or sorry, by department. I'll click on department. I drag it to my screen or to my canvas. You can see these are all the departments I had in Covenant. It's taking a moment to load. And once it finishes loading, you get to see that data in Power BI. Okay, just a moment. All right, so this is how to connect to data, bring the data into Power BI, and of course, start building visualizations on that data itself. It's very simple. I just showed an example of with Excel file. This can be any data source. All right. And that is what we are going to explore in a few minutes. So the case study, while this is loading, the case study we are working with, I'm going to paste it in the chat again. All right. Let me introduce you to the data sets that we are working with today. Okay. I'm going to copy that data and I'm going to paste it in the chat. Okay. Once, just give me a moment. Just grab that and paste it. In the meantime, to download Power BI Desktop, you click on the link that was shared earlier. Let me bring up my screen here. All right. So there are different ways to download Power BI. You can just search download Power BI Desktop on Google, or you can navigate to the link that says download Power BI Desktop from official website, and it brings you to this page to download Power BI Desktop. You choose your language and you click on download. Very simple. So this is how to download Power BI Desktop. Another way is to go from your Microsoft Store. So you can also go to your Microsoft Store and just type in Power BI Desktop. All right. So if you type in Power BI Desktop, you can also download Power BI from that link. So I'm dropping the two links in the chat once again. The first link is to download Power BI Desktop, which is if you click on that link, it brings you to this page. The second link is for the data set. So let's take a look at that data set together. Okay. Now I'm going to copy that link and I'm going to paste it here. All right. So we're going to be getting data from the web. Okay. So remember, Walmart happened to be one of the leading or one of the largest companies in terms of revenue. Okay. So we have this table here in Wikipedia that basically tables companies, organization, the industry they play in, their revenue in terms of millions of dollars, the profits in terms of millions of dollars as well, their employees, all right, the number of employees, all right, where they have their headquarters, okay, are they state-owned or private-owned, and of course, what is the revenue per employee? This is the data we are going to be working with in Power BI. Now, ideally, I would have approached this is for us to copy this data, paste it in Excel, and even if you try, let's look at it together. If you try to copy this data, let me just try. Let's try to copy this data. Okay, I'm going to try to copy this data and paste it in Excel. Okay, so I'm going to copy this data. I've copied it, and I'll try to paste it in Excel. So I'm going to open a new workbook, and I'm going to paste the data here. So you can see there are some distortions with how that data came in, all right? And for you to work with this, you have to spend time cleaning the data or transforming it for you to even get value out of this data, all right? But let me show you, and again, if you connect to this data, if this data changes or there are updates to companies and the likes, you will not get the latest data. You would have to, you will not get the latest data. You would have to download the latest copy or another copy of that data and do the same repeatable process over again. But what we are trying to do is we're trying to connect to directly, we're trying to connect directly to that data source, all right, in such a way that when the data changes from the source, okay, we will always have the latest copy of the data in Power BI. Okay, now let's get to it. So this is the link. Now, how do we go from here? Where do we go from here in Power BI? All right, this is the previous example I was showing you of how we can start building data from Excel. So I'm going to go back into Power BI now, or let me close this and open a new Power BI workbook. Don't save. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to click on Open a new workbook. Okay. So let's hold on a second. And then once this loads, we get to connect to our data source. So we already introduced the data source and we already introduced the case study. All right. So remember, the first place we go to is get data. All right. We go to get data. Where is our data? We want to get, let me go to more. We want to get data from the web. Okay. So yes, this is it. We want to get data from, if you don't know where it is, you can just search web, okay? And you get to search for web and connect to, or you can go to other, all right? So this is where we want to get data from the web. So I'm going to click on the web and I'm going to click on connect. All right? When you click on connect, it's going to ask you one thing only. And it's going to ask you what is the URL that we want to get data from. Okay? It's as simple as that. You only need to copy that URL that is in the chat and paste it here. Okay? So I have the URL copied and I'm just going to paste it. Oops, no, this is not the URL. So I'm going to copy the URL, the same Wikipedia URL. and I'm going to paste it in the chat. Oh, sorry, in this box. It says URL, and I'm going to click what? I click OK. So let's wait for Power BI to send a signal. Of course, you have to have internet connection to get data from the web, not for all sources. If your data source is on your local PC, you don't have to, you don't necessarily have internet. But this one, you're trying to send a connection request to Wikipedia. So you have to, of course, have internet connection. Okay, so these are all the HTML tables that are sent back to us from Wikipedia. So let's see which one has the data we're looking for. And looks like it is this number 1. Can you see? I don't know if anybody can see what I'm saying. So here, let's compare this output to this table. All right, remember what we are looking for is a table that has the rank, the name, the industry, the revenue, the profits, the employees, headquarters, revenue per worker. So let's look at this. So we see something that has the rank, the name, all right, the industry, okay, the revenue, all right, the profits, all right, the employees, the headquarters, where the company is headquartered, whether it's state-owned, there's a ref column here, and there's also a revenue per employee column. This is the table we need, okay? But just for a good measure, let's explore that tables and see. So there's another table here that says breakdown by country. So you see, United States has 20 companies, China has 13, Germany has 4. Let's confirm if this table really does exist on that page, okay? So we go back here, let's scroll down. Wow, this is the table. This is the second table that Power BI pulled for us, okay? But we don't need this table for now. We only need this one. So you can go on to explore other tables to see if there's any value in there, but really we don't need all of this. We only need the first table, okay? Somebody say, can we please go back on how we got here? Fine, I'll do that. I'm a nice person, all right? So I'm going to cancel all of this and we start again. So we go to get data, all right? We go to web. So you can see web here. You click on web, all right? Now you see, we want to get data from the web, okay? We want to get data from the web, and what do we need to supply here? Just the URL. I have my URL copied. I'm just going to paste it here. So it's just the wikipedia.org.wiki.list of largest companies by revenue. Okay? We drop the URL. Okay. This is the same way you connect to a database or you connect to most of the sources that you need to connect to. So here we are back here. All right. Now, this is the table we need, the table that says list. Okay. We check it. We click on this checkbox that says list. And then, of course, we see we can explore our table to be sure that that is what we want. I'm going to expand this. We can explore the table. You can see this is the table we know it is. Now, there are 3 buttons here. Do we load this data or do we transform this data? Remember, the step we're currently going through right now is what we call the ETL phase. All right. What we have done is E of that ETL. We've extracted the data. We want to extract data from a source. We've extracted. The next thing is to what? To transform the data, because this data is not clean. And if you look at it, you can get a sense. There are so many irregularities from this data. The data is not clean. So if you skip the transform phase and you just load the data, you will have problem analyzing that data. Okay? So what we need to do is to transform this data. Okay, so I'm going to click on transform because we need to complete that step: extract, transform, and load. So if you skip the T, what you have done is to extract and load. So we go to transform data. All right. Now, transform data. So this is going to say processing queries. It's trying to, of course, establish connection with Wikipedia, and it's going to open a new page. Okay, let me bring the new page here for you to see. Okay. Just a moment. This is it. It opens a new page for us. All right. This new page is what we call the Power Query Editor. Remember, we spoke about this. Let me go back and show you. We spoke about this where I shared that we connect to the data source, which is in this case our Wikipedia URL. The next thing is what? Power Query. This is where we do the cleaning, right? Think of creating a beautiful Power BI report as the process you would undergo to prepare a soup, right? The first thing is we need to extract our data, all right? So the peppers, all the ingredients, your peppers, your onions, the tomatoes, we're not just going to put all of this in the pot and start cooking, all right? They need to go through a phase to smoothing the data. In this case, the ingredient, the pepper, the onions, and the likes. So they need to go through that blender phase, which is what we're trying to go through. And that transformation phase is where we try to shape the data to what we want. Because we need tomatoes, right? We need the pepper, we need the onion, but we don't need it in the current shape that we bought it in the market. We need to take them through a transformation phase. We need to blend, all right? So the Power Query allows us to do this, all right? It allows us to take the raw data from Wikipedia, but we cannot analyze that data as it is. So we need to clean it, we need to shape it, we need to fine-tune it to what we need, all right? That's what we need to do now. So if you see right now, we've loaded this data in here. We have the rank, we have the name of the company, we have the industry they're playing in, we have the revenue, we have the profits, okay? We have the employees, the number of employees, we have the headquarters, we have whether they are state-owned or they are private-owned. But you can see there's a problem here. If you look at this state-owned, what we have in Wikipedia is a check mark. Let me show you. I'm just going to go back here. Let me show you. What we have in Wikipedia is a mark. You can see this state-owned that says whether they are state-owned. It puts a check mark, whether it's state-owned, and then an X if it is government-owned. But we are not able to pull that data into Power BI. If you look at this data, you can see that this is empty. All right, because Power BI could not translate that data into text. So we may have to drop this column because it's not useful. All right. Also, there's a ref link here. You can see all of these are supposed to be links for you to read further about these companies. But it's only appearing here as text, and we really also don't need it in our analysis. All right. If you go back in here, you see that all of these are links, all right, for you to read more about each of these companies. But we don't need that as well. So we will drop it. Okay. Then we have other columns here that we need to shape and transform. So Power Query is where we get to do all of this exercise. All right. Now, let me tell you something interesting about Power Query as well. Power Query has a functionality called applied steps. If you look on your right, you see applied steps. So please, if my screen is not so, you can try to zoom in. There's actually no functionality for me to zoom in more here. So if you're not seeing it, you can try to zoom in. Okay. These applied steps allows me to allow Power Query to record every transformation step I do on my data. And the reason for recording this step is so that you can automate that process. Remember, I talked about automation. When you get new data, you don't have to come back into Power Query to do the same process all over again. The steps are going to be recorded. So if I remove this column, the step is going to be recorded. Okay, right? So all of these things you're seeing here are steps that Power Query has gone to get the data to where they are right now. So look at, there are 4 steps. The first step is source, which is basically looking at all the HTML data. I don't want to go into the nitty-gritties of HTML and all. Like, this is not a web development class. But all of these things you are seeing here are HTML elements of that data. What Power BI just did is to extract the tables that we need. So this is the table that we need. Okay. After that, Power Query did a step called promoted header. Look at, Power Query is really intelligent. Power Query saw that all our headers are column 1, column 2, column 3. But it looked at row 1 and it saw that what is in this row 1 looked more like the header than the current header we have. Okay, so what did Power Query do? It promoted this header. All right, and then it did a change type step, which is to basically to identify the data type, because we need to identify which one is text, which one is numbers, and so on and so forth. Okay, you cannot undo in Power Query. So if you do something here, you cannot do Ctrl+Z to go back. What you can do is to delete a step. Someone says, can I darken my cursor so we can locate it per time and follow accordingly? Oops, I'm not sure I can get that done right now. Let me see if that is something that is easy to do. But if not, we may have to proceed. Let me see, just a moment. Let me see if it's something I can actually do. Pointers. Okay, let me see if I can change that. What I can do is to make it big. Okay, yeah, I think I got something. Okay, interesting. I want to believe you can see my cursor very well now. All right, so I was talking about rank, name, and all of these columns. So the steps that have been gone through is to go from source, to extract the tables, to promote the headers, and then to do a change type. Okay, now if you see, even though Power BI has done some steps for us, you can tell that it is still not enough, because if you look at row 1, you see that it has USD in millions, and some other redundant information. And also here, this is supposed to be revenue per worker, but it was not promoted. So the first thing is, let's rename the header. So the header here is supposed to be revenue per worker. So I'm going to double click on this, or you can right click this column and look for rename. So we want to rename this to revenue per employee. Okay, revenue per employee. So what can we do to this first row? We can remove it, all right, because it's no longer useful. But you need to take into cognizance something. This revenue we have in here, it says are in USD millions. So which means that even though this is saying 611,000, we need to multiply this by 1 million for us to convert it. So this is showing accountants will understand, right? But I mean, we also get to understand it as well. So this is saying that any figure you see here, you would have to multiply by 1 million, because this is showing in USD million. So what this means is that we have to multiply this by 1 million. We have to multiply anywhere you see USD millions. All right. I just want to point that out before we delete that row. Now, we want to take out this row. What do? We cannot right click and just delete the row. Any changes we need to do in Power Query must be done from the column standpoint. We cannot perform any step from the row. We cannot right click, we cannot make any changes to this. Okay, what do? All right, we can remove rows. All right, and if you see on the Home tab, all right, under Reduce Rows, can you see there's something there that says Remove Rows? I can click on this and say remove top rows. Okay, you can also remove duplicates, you can remove blanks, you can remove errors, but in this case, we want to remove the top rows. All right, so I'm going to click on remove top rows. Now, how many rows are we removing? Responses in the chat. How many rows? It says number of rows. How many rows are we removing? I need one person to respond. How many rows are we removing? 1. Very good. Brilliant. Wow. I'm proud of you. All right. Somebody said 1. So we are going to remove 1 row. So I'm going to click OK. And ladies and gentlemen, you see that that row is gone. All right. So we've successfully removed the top row. Now, let's quickly look at what is wrong in our data. First off, I mentioned state-owned ref. We need to drop them. Okay, we need to drop them because they are not useful to our analysis. There are different ways to go about this. You can right click this and say remove. All right. If you want to do it if you want to do the 2 rows, you can click on the first one, hold Control, and click on the second one. All right. Right click and say remove columns. But if you want to do it one by one, you're free to do that. But you can say remove columns, or you can just hit the delete key on your keyboard. So I'm going to say remove columns. Okay, they are gone. So you can see I don't have that. Now pay attention to what is happening on the right here. Can you see that what I did? The first thing I did was to rename a column. I renamed my column to revenue per employee. The step was recorded. The next thing was I removed top rows. Can you see? The step was also recorded. The next thing was I removed 2 columns, which is the state-owned and the ref column. Let's assume for one reason or the other, I want to undo an action that I've done. I cannot hold Ctrl+Z, and there's no undo button in Power Query. I would have to remove the step. So you can see this last step that says remove column. If I want to undo my last action, all I need to do is to come here and cancel this. Click on this button to say remove this step. So I'm going to click on this, and you can see that step is gone and my state-owned and ref are back. Okay, so we need to understand the concept of applied steps. And the reason for recording this step is to automate that transformation process. Okay, so I'm going to do this again. I'm going to click on state-owned. I'm going to hold Control and click on ref. All right, I'll right click it and I'll say what? Remove columns. All right, those columns are gone. Now we are getting somewhere. All right, if you see something, you see my data, valid, error, and empty. Some of you may say, I don't have this. How can I see this from my system? Of course, you can see it. If you go to the View tab and you turn on column quality, all right? So this gives you brief statistics about how many valid rows you have, how many are error, how many are empty. But you have to know that this column profile is based on the top 1,000 rows. So if you have above 1,000 rows in your data, the column quality is only going to show you for the first 1,000, which is because that's because only a portion or a cache of your data is loaded into Power Query. Okay, but any transformation you do applies to all the column, but you only get to see the validity, the error, and empty for the top 1000 row column. So you can come to view and turn on column quality. Okay, now we have rank, we have name, we have industry or industry. Now let's look at revenue. We need to set our proper data types. The current data type for revenue is what? Is text. We need to change it. Okay, how do we change this data type? I need to click on this icon. You see this ABC icon that says text. I can click on that, all right, to change my data type. So ideally, this is supposed to be a either you want to call it a whole number, all right, or a fixed decimal. But in this case, I'll choose whole number. Okay. Now, if I change this to whole number, watch what happens. I get an error instantly. All right. I get an error. Someone will wonder, why did I get an error? I'm going to delete this. Okay. The reason for that is the data type we are working with is unconventional. And we have something here that looks like a $sign, all right? But in actual sense, it may be that it's not a $sign, or Power BI cannot translate that to be a $sign. So we are getting an error that you cannot convert this particular data type. It's a text data type. You cannot convert it to numbers. All right. So what do you do? All right. You can do something. Let's do a find and replace and remove this $sign that is here and see if we are successful. I'm going to right click again and I'm going to say replace values. You can also do it from the transform tab, all right, and click on replace values. Okay, replace values. Remember what we are doing is we are cleaning our data, we are transforming it, because if we load this to Power BI like this, we will not be able to sum or do a rank or do any aggregation on this column, because it is not even, Power BI does not even understand it to be values. It understands it to be text. Okay. Now we want to do a find and replace. What are we finding? Value to find, $. Value to replace with, nothing. So we leave this place blank because we only want to get rid of that $sign. Okay. I'm going to click OK. So watch. So this is now the $sign is gone. Let's see if we are successful in converting this to number now, whole number. Okay, beautiful. You can see we were able to do this, no errors. All right. Now we need to do the same thing for profit. We need to do the same thing for revenue per employee as well. Okay, so let's do that. Ideally, if I was doing this alone, I would remove, I can do everything at once, replace all the values, then convert it, the data type to numbers. But we're learning, so let's do it one by one. The next thing, I'm going to go to profit. The same thing, I want to replace my $. Right click, replace values. I want to search for $, and I want to replace it with nothing. Okay. All right. So done. All right. Now, if I try again, watch this numbers here. These are negative 22,000. This is negative 19,000, but it is not understood to be a negative sign here because it's of the special characters used. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. If I try to convert these to whole numbers or like this, you're going to see that specifically I'm getting errors on some of them. Okay, which is why data cleaning is important. If you look at what I have here, it's saying that it cannot convert this negative 22,000 to dollars, to numbers. So I also need to clean these values as well. So what do I do? I'm going to undo the last step I did. How do I undo again? I close the change type step. Okay, now I want to look for a way to replace these three values. All right, 1, 2, and 3. All right, so let's do this. Looks to be like an hyphen. All right, so let's do a find and replace. We right click. Let's do replace values. All right, what do we need to find? We want to find what looks like an hyphen, and because it's a negative sign, I'll try to replace it with the same thing. Let's even just see what happens. If I click OK, nothing happened. Let me see. Let me close that and see. I'm going to undo that step. All right. Don't forget we're targeting 22,019 and also 2,487. All right. So right click again, find and replace or replace values. Okay. Now let's see if I try to replace the negative sign or the hyphen with nothing. Okay, you see that it's not working because these are special characters. All right, and I cannot replace them. It's still there. Okay, so there's a simple trick I can do. Let me undo this step again, and I'm going to do the final one. I can click on this sign because I don't know what sign this is. It looks like a negative sign, but hyphen is not replacing it, or minus is not replacing it. So I can click on the cell and come here and copy that sign itself. So copy it, and I can use that as the replace value. So right click now, I can go to replace values. Okay, now I'm going to paste that sign here, which is a sign we want to replace, and I'll try to replace it with a negative sign or a minus. Okay, so we do that, and you can see that it replaced 22,000, it replaced 19,000, and I think it replaced 2004 as well. So let's see, let's try to convert this to a whole number now. You can see we've been able to, oh wow, we're very successful all through. Okay, let's see what is wrong. All right, so let me show you some of these other ones. Let me show you something. I'll go back in here. I'll click on this. Now, there are some that didn't have any profit at all. Look at this. All right. I can't pronounce this name. I'm sorry. So I don't embarrass myself. We need to also replace this with nothing. And we need to also replace, this sign. So we have to look for that ellipsis and replace it with nothing as well. Okay. So, or what I can do, since we already know that this is an error, this is an error, and this is an error, we can do something. We can just replace the error with blanks. Okay, so Power BI also has that functionality, or Power Query has that functionality. So we can say replace errors. So let's go to transform. We go to replace values. Let's replace our errors. Okay, what do we want to replace our errors with? Nothing. So what this is saying that anywhere you see an error, just take it out and replace it with nothing. Oops. So it's saying what value to replace an error. It looks like we have to put in something here. So I'll try to go with 0. Okay. So let's try this. Okay. Now we see we've been able to replace errors 0, 0, 0. So we're good. You can see that for a data analyst, for an HR analyst, you have to clean data because data is not always clean. All right. So you can see that now this data is 100% valid. If I go to the previous step, you can tell that before we had that, you can see that we had 6% error and we could not tabulate how many valid data we have. But now that I've been able to replace it, I now have 100% valid data. Let's go to the last one, which is in this case, the revenue per employee. In this case, we'll right click, and then we're going to replace values again. So we'll say replace values. What are we looking for here? Just the dollar sign. What are we replacing with? Nothing. Okay. Now we can see that this is done. Now we can convert this to a decimal number because it has decimals. Okay. Done. So it looks like our data is clean, right? If you see, if you scroll down, looks like everything is working, but we are missing something. Remember, revenue and profits are what? In their $1 million. So, which means that we need to find a way to reflect that properly. Okay, what do? We can go to transform tab. All right, we just need to multiply this by 1 million so that we get the proper value. We go to standard. So click on the column or click on the revenue column, go to transform tab, go to standard and multiply. Okay, what value do you want to multiply with? We want to multiply with 1 million. So we do 1 0 0 0 0 0 0, 6 zeros. Okay, so you see that this is now be multiplied with 1 million. All right, you can see the data looks like it's in a funny format, but don't worry. All right, it just shows that the data is large, and that is how Power Query represented. You don't have a problem with it. Okay, let's do the same thing for profits. Transform. All right, standard, multiply. Okay, we will multiply by 1 0 0 0 0 0 0. Okay, we're done. Another 1 million. All right, so now I think finally we can say we're done. This is the rank of the company. Everything looks clean. This is the name of the company. Everything looks okay. This is the industry they are playing in. This is the revenue in $1 million. This is the profits. This is the employees. All right. This is headquarters. You can see this headquarters is not looking like it's the name is properly. It says headquarters notes 1. So let's clean that. You can double click on it, or you can right click and say rename. Okay. So now in this case, I want to remove the headquarters, or I can just rename this. Let me just say country so that we know where that company is, because the headquarters usually should be the company where, or the country where you are. Then finally, revenue per employee. Now take a look at all the steps we went through, or we had to go through to clean this data. You can see we removed columns, we removed headers, we renamed, we replaced values, and so on. And every single one of those steps were recorded. What this simply means is tomorrow, you know, Wikipedia changes a lot. If someone comes to this website tomorrow because it gets updated, if this data or if this site gets updated, let's say tomorrow, Walmart is no longer number 1, Amazon takes over, all right, my Power BI reports will update. Okay, if I set refresh schedules or I refresh it manually, I'm going to be able to pull in the latest record on that. All right, this is the power of analytics. This is the power of Power BI, and this is the power of report automation. Again, if you don't take anything out of this meeting or out of this training, know that every single report can be automated. If you spend more than 5 hours creating a report every week or every month on the same repeatable report, know that you are maybe not efficient in your reports. I'm sorry, okay? But there are better ways to do it. This is why you need to talk to Reliance, all right? Speak to Reliance Info Systems, and our experts will come in and help you or guide you. We don't even have to do the work. We can show you what to do, and you do it. Very simple, right? So Power BI helps you to automate your reports, all right? So we've cleaned this data, we've applied all of these steps. Guess what we need to do, ladies and gentlemen? We need to close and apply. That completes that ETL step. We've extracted our data, we've transformed the data. The last thing we need to do is to load the data, which is to complete the ETL step. So what do we do, ladies and gentlemen? We close and apply. All right. So that would, remember our soup analysis. We've taken our pepper, our tomato, our onions, we put it in the blender. We've transformed it at the shape or the speed that we want. Now we are ready to start the main work. That blending work is not the cooking work. That's just to get our data ready for analysis. Okay. Now we've gotten the data ready. Okay. We now need to what? To start analyzing our data. We need to start cooking. All right. So let's wait for our data to load. In the meantime, if you have questions, I'll look at the charts and see if there are questions we can look at. Someone says Power BI seems, I don't know if this word, I can say it here, something than Excel. Interesting. I like that. That is what a lot of people say as well. And you're not the only one saying that. Let's brag a little, okay? I'm going to show you magic quadrants for analytics. All right? Magic quadrant for analytics. And for the last 5 years or more, Power BI has been the constant leader. All right, let me open an image in new tab. Okay, Power BI is leader. According to Gartner, this is an independent research company that research, of course, all technological solutions. All right, so this is Magic Quadrant for Analytics and Business Intelligence Platform. This was in 2022. If you check 2023, it's the same thing. If you check 2024, it's the same thing. If you check 2021, it's the same thing. And look at the leader we have here. So they rated companies based on analytics tools based on their complexity of the vision, the ability to execute. And you can see from left to right, top right being the best. And guess what we have here? Microsoft, right? Microsoft Power BI is the leader for analytics and BI in the last 5 years. Let's look at, this is 2022, right? Let's look at another year. So it doesn't look like, oh, this is, you cooked this, right? I'm trying to see, oh, it's beautiful. This is 2022 and 2023. So let's open this link in a new tab. Nope, I'm not sure I need the link. I just need the visuals. Okay, what year is this? This is 2023. We saw 2022 the other time. This is 2023. And who is the leader again? Somebody should type it in the chat. I mean, don't let me say it. I know I want to brag, but I mean, so somebody should type it in the chat. Who is the leader, right? Just type it. Let's see. So if you know you don't have Power BI in your organization, you are not using Power BI to lead your DT or your analytics in your organization, then you need it. Microsoft Power BI and Reliance Info Systems being, so you have the leader. So okay, wait for this. You have the leader in analytics and BI, and then you have the Reliance Info System, which is the choice Microsoft partner or the leading Microsoft partner in Nigeria and across the Middle East and West Africa as your choice partner. So you have 2 in 1. You have the leading analytics solution and you have the leading Microsoft partner to help you scale your analytics. I mean, it's interesting. Okay, I'm done bragging. That's the last one. No more bragging. Let's get into the job of the day. Remember, we're playing the role of Steve. For those of us that are just joining in, This is a business case we are trying to solve. All right. Steve Henderson is the chief people officer at Walmart. All right. And the pain point is there are concerns that a lot of roles have become redundant. Profit is dwindling. We're making money, but it looks like we have a lot of overhead and a lot of costs. And the company is looking to go on a workforce optimization journey. So the process or the action we're trying to do right now, first off, let's look at what our revenue is saying. All right. Let's look at what our profit is saying. And let's try to do this comparison by dividing our revenue, all right, by our employees and see what is our revenue per employee, all right? Now, if we get that, the next thing is to now compare this to industry standard. We need to now see what other peers are doing, what are other companies doing, and are we still leaders when it comes to revenue per employee, or do we now need to make important decisions, all right, about how to optimize our workforce to get better leverage. Okay. Interestingly, we are running out of time, but let's do something. Let's quickly do simple gymnastic before we adjourn till next week. I don't want to leave us like this. Okay. The first thing we want to do is, so let's look at the data. So you can go to table view. We can look at the data we brought it into Power BI. Okay, so you see name of the customer, the industry, the revenue, the profit, the employee, the country, and the revenue per employee. We have all of this, all right? Now we need to start analyzing that data. Let's first of all look at what is the revenue. How do you build reports in Power BI? Like, it's so simple. You don't write, since morning, I've not written a single line of code, and we're not going to write a single line of code. I promise you. Okay. Now, we want to calculate what our revenue is. Okay. What do? We just click on this revenue column and drag it into the canvas. Okay. We click on the revenue and drag it into the canvas, and Power BI is going to create a visual for us. All right, for us to get what is our total revenue. Now, I don't want to see this in a bar chart. I want to see it as a number displayed. So what can I do? This is where I need to come into the visualization tab here. Can we all see the visualization tab? I now need to switch to a type of visual called a card visual. I just want to see the revenue numbers. So I'm going to click on this. So the total revenue is $13.78 trillion. Let me put dollars here so that we know that we're not talking about any other currency. We're talking of dollars now. But this is going to be false if we go away like this, because this is actually the revenue of all the companies in that data set. We need to filter this data to what? To just Walmart. We are playing the role for Walmart. So what do? We can bring in the company. So this one says name, but let me quickly rename it. So you can also rename here. So right click, rename, and I'm going to call this company. Okay, company. Okay, so it's easy to follow. All right. Now I'm going to drag the company into my filters pane here. All right, so that I can filter particularly to Walmart. All right, and we can see what the revenue numbers are for that company. Okay, this is taking its time to load. So right, it's trying to effect the changes. It's done. Now I want to filter this data to Walmart. Remember, we talked about slicers and filters in Power BI. Look at this filter pane. If your own is collapsed like this, you can expand it. All right, filters. Now we need to bring in the company into the filters on this visual. So we bring in the company, and then what do? We look for Walmart and filter Walmart. So we only want to see the revenue for Walmart. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen, $611 billion. I've been saying million, and nobody has corrected me. $611 billion. That's not small money. All right. That's $611 billion. And if you want to be sure that we are right, let's quickly look at that here. If we go back to the website, Walmart, it's see $611.28 billion. This is our revenue. Let's quickly get the profits. So I can copy this, all right, copy visual, paste it. Okay, this is second one. Now, instead of putting revenue here, let's look at profits. How do I do this? I can uncheck this box in revenue. So I can uncheck this. All right. Now I can drag in what? My profits. I can drag in profits into this box as well. So you see, we're making $611 billion, but our profit is what? Only 11.68 billion. Okay, we don't know if that is good or not yet. All right, now let's look at something else. Profit by employee. So let's create a new visual. Again, we can drag revenue by employee onto the canvas. Can you see what I'm doing? I click on it, I move it, I drop it on the canvas. That's all. No, nothing more. I change this to a card visual. You can see my revenue per employee, again, this is for everyone, is 511. Let's again bring in the company into the filters and drill down to Walmart. Now, this gives me some insight to start working with. I know my revenue, I know the profit, and I know that we are doing $291,000 per employee. All right. This may look good on the outside, but then we now need to do the comparative analysis, which is where we are going to start from next week, because unfortunately, we have to stop here. All right. Next week, what we are now going to do is to compare these numbers with all the other companies. All right. We are going to compare these numbers with other companies that are in our space and other Fortune 1000 companies out there, and see how is our revenue optimized, or do we have a lot of redundant roles, and what strategies can we do to solve that. Ladies and gentlemen, we stop here today. All right. Thank you for joining. Again, if you want to speak to Reliance Info Systems, all right, about Power BI, about analytics, about data visualization, about AI, all right, you want to bring in Copilot to your organization, you want to bring in AI, you want to bring in machine learning, you want to do chatbots, and you're looking for that company or that organization that are going to help you on that drive, Reliance Info Systems is just for you. I've spoken about a number of our services before, but the purpose of us just joining, all right, if you want to book a free consultation with us, all right, a free consultation, there's a link that has just been dropped in the chat. You need to open that link and you need to put in your details. And a member of our team is going to reach out to you to have this. Whether you want to talk about or not, you can talk about anything, but not relationship problems, please. Just talk about anything, right? You want to talk about anything that affects your organization, all right? Reliance Info Systems, you can book a free consultation session, and that is what you just, that link in the chat. You can speak to us. You can also come, I can also be on a call. I mean, just to talk about analytics and so on and so forth. All right. Again, if you want to, if you're looking for an HIRS solution, we also have Opramadic. All right. Opramadic is a leading ERP solution that not just only does HR, it also encompasses everything from finance to admin and a host of other functionalities. It's an ERP solution, a lightweight ERP solution that you can deploy to the cloud and you can use in your organization. There's also a link in the chat right now for you to register an interest for Opramadic. And Opramadic also has direct connectivity to Power BI. So as you are doing your HR business in the solution, you can also pull and export your reports as you would have it. Okay. The third one, or the last one, is if you currently have any M3 Microsoft solution, Microsoft 365 in your organization, and you want to use you want to know some of the things you can do with your license. We're not saying come and buy more license. We just want to help you use your license better. There's a license to value form in the comment section or in the chat that you can use to register your interest. Okay. We're also doing free cyber security checks and training for organizations, not to individuals now, for organizations. So if you want, as an HR professional, if you want us to come in and do sensitization for your staff about cyber security and what they need to watch out for at no extra cost, please, you can free to reach out to us. Or you want to do cyber security assessment, all right? We can also help with this as well. Final one is Modiva, all right? Modiva is the upskilling initiative for IT professionals, all right? If you want us to help your professionals, the IT professionals upskill and give them the vouchers to write Microsoft exam at no extra cost, there's also a Modiva link in the chat for you to sign up on. Next week, Wednesday, is going to be our final session. You really don't want to miss it, because this is where we wrap everything up. Everything we'll be talking about for the last 5 weeks, we're going to wrap it up next week. And if we're lucky, all right, we can even get a chance to ask live questions. I know some people have questions that they may not want to communicate in the chat. So maybe you can ask your questions next week, and we can get to summarize and interact better next week. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining today's session on HR Analytics and Power BI. I hope you've gotten tremendous benefits from joining today's training. Till we meet next week, I give you a Reliance bye-bye. Thank you very much.